They called it the Blue Wave Express. They told us the vibe had shifted. They poured millions of dollars into a deep red district, convinced that they were about to deliver the single most humiliating blow to the MAGA movement since this past November. And then, as of last night, it all came crashing down. The blue wave got canceled as the Democrat got crushed. Make sure to stick with me to the very end of this video because we're going to see what really happened in the Tennessee special election yesterday and what it all really means for 2026 and the midterms. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness as the far left desperately tries to stop the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age that you're making happen all over the world. So if you want a front row seat on how you're changing the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. So yesterday was the big day, a special election held in Tennessee's 7th district to replace outgoing Republican Representative Mark Green. And all eyes were on the Democrat candidate, a radical left-wing lunatic by the name of Afton Bain. Now, this was a district that Trump had won rather easily back in November of last year by double digits. But the polls leading up to the race were shockingly close, at least we were told. Some polls even had Bain winning by a point or two. In fact, the polls showed the race to be so close that President Trump had to step in and call on all patriots in the 7th district to get out and vote for the Republican Matt Van Epps, a combat veteran who served in Afghanistan. Democrats smelled blood. After their big wins in Jersey and Virginia last month, they got cocky. They thought, now we can storm red states. Trump is so unpopular. MAGA is so over. We can run some of our most radical socialist nuts in the reddest of red states and still win. That's literally the bravado that you were hearing on these left-wing outlets all across the country. They actually thought they were going to win this last night. That is until last night when the polls closed and reality finally set in. When the dust cleared, what they thought would be neck and neck turned out to be a complete blowout. The Republican won by 9 points. It wasn't even close. And just like that, once again, the Democrats' early celebrations blew up in their face. Now, again, if you've been paying attention to what the pollsters were telling us, the result that we saw last night was simply impossible. Marist is telling us that the Democrats are up by 14 points in the generic ballot. The Economist says it's Democrats plus 6. They want you to believe the Republican majority is toast. They want you to believe that Trump's agenda is dead on arrival. So how do you explain what just happened in Tennessee? Well, our good friend, election analyst Seth Keshel, has a great breakdown of this morning, as he always does, by the way. Seth was one of the single most accurate election forecasters for 2024. And he put together an analysis of what happened last night that tells us, I think, everything we need to know about what's really happening now and what's really coming in 2026. First and foremost, there are 3 big takeaways that Seth gives us. First and foremost, what's absolutely essential for us to understand is that off-year elections, midterm elections, special elections, always favor the party that's out of power. Did I mention always? Okay? It's not because voters suddenly hate the president. It's not because they're politically schizophrenic or fickle. It's because the party that lost the White House has been chomping at the bit to get back in the voting booth. These are voters who are angry. They're motivated. They're ready to show up. Meanwhile, the party in power, they're comfortable. They're happy. They're getting along with they're going along, getting back to their life. I mean, it's technically known as a refractory period. All the energy and enthusiasm that goes into winning the White House naturally dissipates, and frankly, rightly dissipates. The winning side goes back to their regularly scheduled lives. All the time, money, and energy that went into winning the presidency goes back to other things now that our candidate is firmly and securely in the White House for the next 4 years. Ronald Reagan had a 63% approval rating back in 1986, and yet he still lost seats in the midterms. Now, this year in April, Trump-backed candidates in Florida, they won special elections, but by drastically smaller margins than just 5 months earlier when Trump crushed it. And for right or for wrong, good or ill, this is the pattern. This is the historical recurring pattern. This is what always happens. So when Democrats poured over $1 million into Tennessee's 7th district trying to flip a seat, Trump won by 22 points, they thought they had their moment. The AOC of Tennessee, as she's called, was supposed to be their comeback story. The polls tightened. The pundits said Van Epps was only a 2 or 3 point favorite. Some polls showed that the Tennessee AOC was going to win. And then Van Epps won by 9 points. No, I'm sorry, that's not close. That's not a close race by anyone's definition. That's a blowout. That's a blowout, particularly in a special election environment that's supposed to favor Democrats. And so that's Seth's first takeaway in this. Republicans are rightly celebrating this win because this result completely contradicts the doom and gloom narrative that the media has been selling since the elections in Jersey and Virginia a few weeks back. So takeaway number one, this was a big win given the dynamics of off-year special elections. But it's the second and third takeaways that tells us what we need to know about the upcoming midterms. Wait until you see this. But there is absolutely something that you should not be waiting for, and that's taking control of your financial future. And there's no better way to see your finances flourish than by investing in crypto. Now, okay, I get it. If you're like me, you don't like the volatility, right? You love the extreme highs. 30, 40% returns, right? But what about the equally extreme lows? Well, guess what? Your experience of that volatility is now officially a thing of the past. Meet BlockTrust IRA. It has a super AI system that Bitcoin Magazine has named the #1 crypto technology platform in the world. That's among 1,500 global competitors. And what that super AI does is it works 24/7 to analyze global market data, and it predicts with uncanny accuracy the highs and the lows of crypto volatility. So BlockTrust IRA sells at the highs, and then they buy again at the lows. And what that does is it mitigates the volatility, all the while you stand to make incredible gains. That's why I'm a proud client of BlockTrust IRA. I have my own account with them, and gang, I absolutely love them, and I know you will too. So what are you waiting for? Click on that link below. This is your chance to get in on the greatest wealth opportunity ever. Click on the link below or visit TurleyTalksCrypto.com. Find out how they can help you join the Trump financial revolution. It's finally giving forgotten Americans access to the greatest crypto wealth opportunity in history. And the best part, for a limited time, they're offering my viewers up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you open up an account with them. Again, it's amazing. Don't wait. Visit TurleyTalksCrypto.com. That's TurleyTalksCrypto.com. The second takeaway in all of this is that red state voters are showing up and they are holding the line, because that's what red state voters do. We've talked about this a number of times on this channel, but the massive left-UG crisis that started in 2020, where residents of blue states picked up and moved to red states by the tens of millions. We have studies that show that they are the most adamant about keeping blue state politics as far away from them and their states, their new red states, as possible. So we're seeing red state. We have a number of studies on this. We have red states like Texas and Florida getting more and more red precisely because of this left-UG dynamic. And that goes double for Tennessee. Seth calls it actually the Alamo effect. Voters in states like Tennessee, Texas, Florida, and the like, they show up to defend their territory no matter what. They're not letting their states turn blue, period. They're not moving again, right? Now, Seth notes, by contrast, the Midwest does not have that same intensity because they're not dealing with the waves of liberal transplants trying to flip their states. So that's first. Second, Tennessee controls mail-in balloting, and that's key. Unlike Virginia, unlike New Jersey, unlike Pennsylvania, Democrats don't get 6 weeks to pile up insurmountable mail-in leads. Tennessee keeps it tight, and that levels the playing field. And then third, the electorate. I mean, Tennessee's 7th district is packed primarily with white evangelical voters who are rock solid in their conservative convictions. They're not swing voters. These are people who will never, ever vote for a candidate who hates Tennessee, who supports transgender surgeries for minors without parental consent, and who wants to defund the police, right? Afton Bain never had a prayer in this district, and the results prove it. The MAGA faithful came out, not in the same numbers as 2024 for sure, but again, historically, that's frankly impossible. But they still came out, and Bain got crushed. And the Democrats in 2026 are going to get crushed even worse in this district. Tennessee 7 is a solid, safe red district for the foreseeable future. And so that leads us to the big takeaway in all of this. What does all of this mean in 2026? What does yesterday's special election tell us about the upcoming midterms? Bottom line, the narrative that there's a massive Democrat blue wave inevitably coming got crushed last night. That narrative officially fell apart. Oh, sure, the legacy media will try to keep that narrative alive and well for their dwindling audiences. But make no mistake, Van Epps, the Republican, winning by 9 points in a special election during the holidays in a year when Republicans have been struggling in other races simply does not line up with pollsters telling us Democrats are up by 14 points nationally. That's not true. Bottom line. Now, of course, a lot can change in 10 months. But we're much more likely looking at a midterm environment that's Democrat +1, +2 nationally, not the double-digit tsunami the media wants you to believe is coming like back in 2006 or 2018. And if that's the case, and the Republicans play their cards right, there is a very real pathway to keeping the House majority, especially in light of all the redistricting that's happening among red states as we speak. But again, Seth Keshel warns us here, and this is critical. We cannot get complacent. Tennessee held strong because the voters showed up and the infrastructure was in place. The GOP cannot assume every district will be like Tennessee. There are plenty of purple districts in the Midwest and swing states that could easily flip if we don't fight for every single seat. But the bottom line here is that the Republican Matt Van Epps proved that when Republicans run solid candidates, control the ballot process, and mobilize their base, we win. We win virtually every single time. He proved that the pollsters don't have any clue what they're talking about. In fact, every pollster that was telling us that the Tennessee AOC was going to win also told us that Cackles Kamala would win in a landslide. But most importantly, this Republican proved that the so-called blue wave is nothing more than a fabricated legacy media fantasy. The Democrats got crushed last night, but the fight is far from over. 2026 is coming, and if we want to keep the House, we need to bring the same energy to every race in every state across the country. The Democrats wanted Tennessee. They spent millions trying to buy it, and Tennessee told them to go to hell. Let's make sure the rest of America does the same in 2026. Before you go, gang, if you want to be part of a community where faith, family, and freedom come alive, check out the Courageous Patriot Club. I love for you to see what this community is all about. You can watch a free preview of Turley Walks, one of my exclusive weekly series. Head on over to turley.pub/turleywalks.